There is a phrase we say quite often around here when referring to ourselves and to our vision for this spiritual home, and that is that we are the beloved community. This is a term that was actually first coined in 1913 by the philosopher and theologian Josiah Royce, who founded the Fellowship of Reconciliation, dedicated to supporting peace, justice, and reconciliation. This was back in 1913. It was 44 years later that Dr. Martin Luther King, a member of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, popularized the term and gave it an even deeper, broad meaning. For Dr. King, the beloved community was not some sort of lofty utopian goal. Rather, the beloved community was realistic and achievable. It was a global vision in which all people share in the wealth of the earth. According to the King Center, in the beloved community, poverty, hunger, and homelessness will not be tolerated because international standards of human decency will not allow it. Racism and all forms of discrimination, bigotry, and prejudice are replaced by an all-inclusive spirit of sisterhood and brotherhood, and I would add, of all genders. In the beloved community, international disputes are resolved by peaceful conflict resolution instead of military power. In the beloved community, love and trust triumph over fear and hate. Dr. King's beloved community was never intended to be devoid of conflict. We are all human, after all. Instead, he recognized that conflict was an inevitable part of the human experience and that it could be resolved peacefully, even among our greatest adversaries. This radical idea became both a rallying cry and the subject of many a sermon across Black churches in America as well as synagogues. The Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, a very good friend of Dr. King, was himself determined to put these ideas to practice, and this concept of the beloved community to it. He brought Buddhist mindful practices, which took off in Buddhist communities worldwide. And this may be why, the average person, when we hear the term beloved community, we think that it is a term that refers to spiritual communities, churches, synagogues, faith communities. And that's wonderful. However, the original intention was that the beloved community would be for all of us everywhere, in our cities and states and country and world. The beloved community, therefore, requires our participation in the political process. Let me assure you, my friends, it is a very spiritual act to be political. When Moses led the people out of bondage, that was a spiritual act that was also by nature political. When Jesus of Nazareth sat with the lepers and the most marginalized people of his time, it was a spiritual act that was also by nature political because he was making a powerful statement of equity and social change. When Muhammad, peace be upon him, overthrew the Arab tribal bonds and insisted that all human beings were equal, it too was both spiritual and political. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who worked with Dr. King, said, "When I marched in Selma, my feet were praying." When I marched in Selma, my feet were praying. As it says in the Christian Bible, faith without works is dead. So I want to invite you today to really, really consider that each one of us has the opportunity to, over the next 100 days, to pray and to pray with our feet. Are you with me? So it is precisely in our spiritual community here and wherever you are joining in on the planet that together we get to live our values, the values we talk about every single week. We get to live those values out into the world. Here at the New Thought Center for Spiritual Living, we are steadfast in our commitment to preserving our democracy and ensuring fair and safe elections. We are steadfast in our commitment to, just as all the great faith traditions have taught, to live and to lead with compassion towards others. We understand that all human beings should be fed and clothed and sheltered and cared for, and that the rights of women and girls and the LGBTQIA population, that their rights must be restored and shored up on our watch. We understand that the marginalized and the disenfranchised should all be protected, and that every child deserves to live in a world safe from gun violence and climate disaster. We, in this spiritual, beloved community, stand for peace and human dignity for all people and an end to all war. This is the basic fabric of our spirituality, understanding that all of this is baked into the understanding that we are one human family. Please hear me when I say that this is not ultimately about the left or the right, Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative, blue or red. It is about compassion or cruelty, equity or injustice, love or hate. That is what it is ultimately about. And I, for one, choose compassion and equity and love. Are you with me? The writer and activist Adrienne Maree Brown wrote, "We have the capacity to hold each other, serve each other, heal each other, create for and with each other, forgive each other, and liberate ourselves and each other." These are not new thoughts. This is what beloved community means. It is what we all long for and what we all need. We are in the midst of great change in our world right now. We are witnessing the extraordinary transformation, watching old, archaic ideas of power rise to the surface to be replaced by the spiritual truth of equity, peace, love, and inclusion. And I get it. Change, any kind of change, can be tough. Can you think of a time in your own life where you were faced with a big change? Maybe you're being faced with that now. And perhaps this change was hard for you. Perhaps you resisted it or are resisting it. Or perhaps you dove in without really taking the time to be mindful about it. Can you recall that? Historically, change is not really something that we humans are that great at. We try, But there is also often a natural resistance to change. But there is good news. The writer Octavia Butler wrote, "God is change." God is change. Just 3 words, such a powerful statement. Another way of saying that or considering it is that God is transformation. God is transformation. If you are experiencing a change in your life, I invite you to reframe it as a transformation. It will serve you. And a quick aside for those of you who are new or who are newish here, when I speak of God, when I say the word God, I am not referring to the old-timey man in the beard floating on a cloud who's moody. That is not the God of our understanding here at the New Thought Center for Spiritual Living. The God of our understanding is an ineffable, benevolent, divine presence that is within us, walks with us, and is around us at all times. When I talk about transformation, even that word transformation, what comes to my mind often, maybe this is true of some of you, is that iconic image of transformation of the caterpillar transforming into a butterfly. It's extraordinary. In considering this and recognizing that God's spirit, source energy, again, whatever word, works for you, it is in the change. God is in the chrysalis. God is in the transformation. We are reminded that the same loving light of God is inside, through, and all around the transformation that is occurring right now in our country and in our world, something that is so important for us on a spiritual path to remember during this time. God, love, grace is always with us, in us, and in all of it, including the politics. So as we move into the next 100 days leading up to the election, it is so very important to hold and know and remember, God is in the change. God is in this transformation. It has become extremely clear over the past 7 days that as a country, we really have entered in at high speed transformation, a transformational time, given all of the rights of women and girls that have been taken away these past 2 years. This past week, I don't know a woman who was not on some level impacted when she heard that Kamala Harris was stepping in as the presidential nominee. What I got were choked up tears or holding back tears at the transformational spiritual idea of that. Can you hear the ancestors right now? Yes, they are happy. This is a moment of extraordinary hope. And when I say hope, it's a capital H hope. It's active. Keeping in mind that true hope is the activity within us of the divine. A very wise woman I know, many of you around here know her as Mama Peggy. Hi, Mom. Recently wrote, "Hope is a verb with its sleeves rolled up." Hope is a verb with its sleeves rolled up. The reverberation of hope in this past week has been staggering. A woman by the name of Joteka Edie founded an advocacy group called Win with Black Women in 2020, and they have been meeting weekly with a powerful vision for the past 4 years. Weekly for the past 4 years with a powerful vision. They were tireless, for example, in their efforts to help bring home WNBA player Brittany Griner from prison in Russia. They helped get that done. They do incredible work. And just within a few hours of the announcement from the White House last Sunday, they created a Zoom call for Black women to support Ms. Harris that very night. Joteka thought initially that they would have maybe 1,500 people on the call. Maybe they ended up with over 44,000 Black women on that call within a few hours. That's amazing. That's amazing. They raised a ton of money for the campaign, and following their lead, the very next night, Win with Black Men had a Zoom video call supporting Harris, and over 53,000 men showed up and raised a ton of money. And on Wednesday, there were both Latina and South Asian Zoom calls with thousands and thousands of people following their lead. After their meeting last Sunday, Black women organizers and activists called on white women to also follow their lead and join the effort to support the very first Black South Asian woman candidate for president who, make no mistake, is intending to create the beloved community. That is her platform. Inspired by this, just a few days later, Shannon Watts, the founder of the gun violence prevention organization Moms Demand Action, which has chapters in every single state in the United States, mobilized her community. She and her team got the word out, and they held a Zoom call this past Thursday night for white women to answer the call. You may have seen the headlines, Kamala breaks Zoom. Did you see that? Over 164,000 people registered for that in just a couple of days. And I know that some of you here, some of you, and online were there on that call. I was there. Glennon Doyle and Pink and Maria Shriver and Brene Brown and so many others joined in on that call and donated. We raised a ton of money. It was incredible. And this Monday night is the White Dudes for Kamala Harris Zoom call. And really, part of the reason I'm sharing this with you is because this was brilliant organizing. Because ultimately, it's about mobilizing people where they are first and then bringing them together for the greater good. Because tomorrow night, it was moved from tonight because there were so many RSVPs, is the very first Women for Harris National Organizing Call. All women of all backgrounds together tomorrow night. Now, why? Again, why am I sharing this with you? As a former organizer, the deepest bow to all y'all organizers. My hat is tipped. What was accomplished on behalf of the beloved community this week was nothing short of miraculous. I am blown away at the level of transformation that has occurred in this past week. It is a masterclass in organizing, led by Black women. As a minister, I am awed at all of the God, the Spirit, the source, the divine that showed up in support of the co-creation of the beloved community and its values. Its values: compassion, equity, love. However you choose to participate in helping to co-create the beloved community outside church walls, I want you to know that it is absolutely imperative. It is of the utmost importance that together we lean into the spiritual principle of balance, alignment, while at the very same time rolling up our sleeves with great intentionality and love. And so to participate in tuning out the fear and the vitriol that is already rising, we have provided you here and wherever you live in the world with a beautiful spiritual tool for the next 100 days. I introduced this last week. It is the brainchild of my beloved friend, Reverend David Alexander. It is free. It is very cool. We have the slide. John, if you'd be so kind. All you have to do, it's my election intention, is text JOIN to this phone number, 470-784-0250. You can take a picture of it, or you can just text to join right now, if you like. I'm going to leave it up for just another moment for those of you here in the room that didn't get it last week. And every day for the next 100 days, you will receive on your phone a 2 to 3 minute inspirational new thought message reminding us of the spiritual truth during this time. This will help us to stay balanced and to remember the sacred in all of it. Both Shelley and I are participating, along with 40 other teachers and spiritual leaders that I love from around the country. Some of you may already know Michael Beckwith kicked us off. He began it today. It was a beautiful message. Mine will show up on your phones tomorrow, and then again later. And so just know that to support this grassroots intention, to stay grounded and in alignment with Spirit as we move forward. On Sundays, we will be leaning into the somatic healing principles outlined in this book right here, What It Takes to Heal, How Transforming Ourselves Can Change the World by Prentice Hemphill. It's gorgeous. It's such a phenomenal tool for us during this time. We have some books in the bookstore for those of you who are here. It's widely available as well for those of you online. Also, following service today, participating in this transformation while anchored in spiritual truth, we will be having a postcard party just right downstairs to support the preservation of our democracy and ensure fair elections. All are welcome if you're here in person. You could even go downstairs just for like 10 minutes. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, do a couple postcards. Nice. Look at you, participating in change, in God, in transformation. NTCSL Colorado, our satellite community, they will be having their next postcard party on Sunday, August 11th. So there's so much for us to hold true to. This week, my loves, like Moses, Jesus, and Mohammed, peace be upon him, I invite you to bring your spirituality into the politics of the day. If you're watching the news and it gets, I invite you to go to prayer. That's a prayer request right there. Bring your spirituality to it. This is never about otherizing. Again, like I said, this is about walking our values of compassion, equity, and love in the world. And so when stuff comes up, I invite you to consider reframing it for yourself and remembering that politics are happening in our country, and it is a spiritual call for each one of us to do what is ours to do. Secondly, whatever change or transformation you are moving through in your own life and that we are experiencing in the country, remember and know that God, that Spirit, is in all of the change and transformation, in all of it, in every nook and cranny. God's source is there. And finally, I invite you to bring mindful practices to your daily life, especially now. like perhaps receiving the inspirational daily message on your phone. That's easy. Check. Maybe if you are already a meditator, you might consider adding a bit of time. Or if you don't yet have a meditation practice, I invite you into that and let it buoy you and uplift you and support you. I want to be certain that everyone here and those of you online, that you take care of your heart during this time, that you practice self-care, whatever that is for you during this time. We are the beloved community, my friends. And so now, let us live that out into the world.